I don't know.
Yes.
I think the guy could probably
on
get
a Mitch
himself
Miller Christmas album.
reelected.
This one, yeah.
I'm not sure.
The only one.
And I've never
A lot of
listened
people
to a Mitch
signed those
Miller album
petitions.
before.
Okay.
It was
And he's challenging
horrible.
him.
How
Well,
did people stand it?
Sing along with Mitch.
It's
And
the
by the way,
same
I'm not
thing
Jason
over and
Priest's
over.
biggest
And he's
fan.
got
I don't
that
know the guy
stupid
personally.
accordion in the background.
Never met him.
It was
Well, maybe
terrible.
I've met him, but I don't know him.
You know, it's funny when he used to come to New Bedford and he would do a sing along downtown. They would
But
track
I have
the
nothing
album.
against the guy other than just what I've read
And
in
he
the
would
papers.
stand on
I
the
don't have
library
against- it's
steps
not
and
personal,
wave his
you know, it
baton,
just
and
seems like
everybody would
he's
sing in the crowd. But I mean, they would track the album, and then you sang to the album. Yeah, the good old days.
I'll share something with you that I wanted to tell you, but I haven't gotten the chance to yet. So, of course, we all know Dean Martin and the Baby It's Cold Outside thing.
Yeah.
It's now hit, that song has hit the top
Good
10
morning.
digital
Influence American
sales
policy.
chart
Wow.
for the year.
You know, go on the media.
Or for the month, rather.
And you know what I mean by a pen
Last
start.
month,
You get a
I
pen,
learned that
you go to write with it, it
he has
doesn't
another
write,
song,
so you
Let It Snow,
scribble a little
Let
bit.
It Snow reappeared
familiar
on
with what I'm
the top 100 Billboard
You know,
chart.
really, we
Dean
in this
is in.
state
Yeah,
people don't
he
realize
didn't
it,
have
but
a
we
hit
have
since 1969.
very strict laws.
And he's been dead since
On
95, and
petitions.
he's back on the Billboard charts.
Back on the Billboard
Yeah.
charts. How about that?
And
So, I mean,
signatures.
this whole thing about the controversy over Baby It's Cold Outside
On
is
the
really...
petitions?
I'm sure... Who wrote that song, do you know? Baby It's Cold Outside?
And go
I
back
believe
to
Irving
other
Berlin.
world
Maybe.
leaders. Anyway,
Maybe not.
Whoever did is... I mean,
what I
somebody's pulling
thought
in
was
some royalties
interesting
on
in the
that.
media is
If they had a royalties clause in the contract...
because the
a lot of
Russian narrative
people
is
back in the day
just
didn't
so
have those kind of
the
contracts.
media is so
Oh, it's Frank Lesser.
bought into the
Of course,
idea that
Frank Lesser.
Okay, Frank
we
Lesser
have
wrote the
Russian
song. So Frank Lesser
collusion
is
and
making some
treason and an
cash.
improperly elected president.
He's not, but I'm sure
controlled by
His
his
family
family
is,
some
yeah.
royalties.
All that
If they had a royalties clause in their contract, they are. Because, baby, it is cold outside.
They
Actually, it's
don't
getting warmer, I think, right now. The mayor's
bring
in
up
now right now.
Turkey.
We're getting warmer out there or
The
what?
country
Warmer
of Turkey.
Not that I noticed.
No, you didn't
Although
notice.
I have my new coat, Barry, that I bought for myself for Christmas.
I like that.
Flynn's
That's pretty
sentencing
cool.
yesterday that
Yeah,
didn't happen.
yeah, so
General
it's-
Flynn.
It's warm for me.
There you go.
There you go.
Have you got your tree up yet?
I like your shirt.
You like that? This is
Yeah.
our Beam Me Up, Space Patrol BSM
It does look
shirt.
like Star Trek.
It doesn't it? It has that
the
feel
BSM
to it.
logo
Yeah.
on it. Nice. Did you guys have like a Yankee swap here, Barry? Is that how? Did you?
These were a gift from management. Yeah, gift from
Really?
management. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
They treat us well, yeah.
This is what we want you to wear on the air.
Have you got your tree up yet?
As a matter of fact, yes. Got it from Liz Haskell at the Green Thumb on Rockdale Avenue, who's always takes good care of me at Christmas. You know, she's always picks out the right tree, and it's up. I put it up, and I let the kids decorate it.
Mm-hmm. What, this morning or?
No, we actually got it up last weekend.
Last weekend, wow, yeah.
It's there in place.
Ahead of schedule, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what's got into me. And I actually bought a couple of Christmas presents, too.
Wow.
Boy, maybe I have too much time on my hands this year. I don't know what it is.
Got to get back to work.
I know. I've been slacking, I think.
So
Yeah.
all the Christmas tree lightings have been done and everything like that?
Pretty much. I got to a few of them. I wasn't able to get to as many as I would have liked just because of, scheduling conflicts. But, there are a number of people who really pitched in and, really deserve a lot of credit. Neighborhoods United, Jerry Pinto and Kenny Resendiz, of course, do so much. A number of city agencies and emergency management, DPI and the police. They did a lot. And not all the tree lightings are well attended. Some are well attended. Some are extremely well attended, like the one at the Common and the downtown tree lighting. But it's fun. It's good stuff, and I think we've done the last one. I have to look at my schedule, but yeah. But it's
so
good.
We're ready to roll.
We're ready for Christmas. We're
back and wait for
mentally
Santa to get
prepared
here.
for Christmas at this point, Barry.
A lot of folks not happy with the ice on the streets yesterday morning. And I know you didn't put the ice there, but the complaint is that somebody waited too long to get out there and address it.
It's hard. So what's different about those black ice events is that they are rarely predicted.
Shocked the hell out of me. I wasn't even expecting the snow.
Yeah, so with snow, you know when you're getting a decent snowfall and more or less when. And look, I mean, that's always a moving target. But with black ice, it just materializes if there's enough moisture in the air and there's a set of conditions that have to fall into place to make it happen. It did, and it was icy.
Yeah,
it was icy. It was icy around the schools.
It was beyond black ice. It was like something out of Frozen. You know, I was looking for Elsa to run down the street. I mean, it was like everything was encrusted in it. Did somebody just say, "Gee, maybe the sun's going to come up, and melt this, and let's not"?
They went out and salted. It's just because it wasn't predicted, because we didn't know, we didn't have a basis to know to get out at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, as we usually do with a morning snowfall.
Unanimously to give notice.
They got out a little bit later. They took a look around and said, the stuff's
Mayor
here,
Paul River
do it. So the process started later. It's really hard. It's hard to avoid because it just the black ice. The weather. Sometimes the weathermen will say, "Yeah, we expect
Mayor
black
Paul
ice
River
tomorrow."
is now facing the two
R's. It's a hard thing to
either
know,
resign or recall.
So when people see it, you just have to slow
and
down.
I know there was
people
a
did. I
last
dropped
minute
one of my
legal
kids off at the high school, and
that the mayor tried to
pull.
The city council
navigate
didn't bite
through there. I had to go up to Boston right afterward. It took
signatures.
a long
But anyway,
time
they
just
voted
to get out of the city to go up to Boston.
But anyway,
because
they
of all the black ice, and I saw it
fraudulent
firsthand. I saw an
signatures.
accident.
But
when people see that, obviously you got to slow down, and virtually everybody does. But you have to take a little extra care.
I saw an accident yesterday on Belleville Road that looked like it involved a car and a city salting truck.
Mayor of Paul River is now facing.
I don't know.
I'm not aware of that one.
Yeah, it was a school bus accident.
I did see that one. I saw a school bus accident right at the Octopus. A car slid into the back of the school bus.
Yeah. Nobody hurt. Anywhere.
It didn't appear that way. It looks like the hood slid underneath the back fender. Yeah.
Well, we got to get the DPW guy up in the middle of the night now. Go on, start driving around and seeing how these roads are.
Yeah, that's just it. It's very, very, very hard to predict, and so there's some stuff that the city can't really address as well as we'd like, and those are unusual circumstances. But that was one of them yesterday.
All right. Last time you were here, we talked about wood.
I heard something about that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about wood, and that's all anybody's been talking about. And you said last week when you were here that the personnel director had been tasked by you with conducting an inquiry. Not an investigation, but an inquiry. Has that inquiry been completed?
No, she's working away. She's got 1 million emails to sort through, literally over 1 million emails. And she's done... I think by now she told me at least a dozen interviews. So she's out there. She's working really hard. She's really good at it. It's a central part of her job. As the person. Sandy's been the personnel director for a couple of years, but has been in the personnel department for much longer than that. And she's really effective at it. And this is when you get right down to it, it's a personnel matter, and she's digging into it. And we've also, I've let the police chief know that he should be keeping tabs on it, because people have raised questions about whether law enforcement should be involved. And I said, look, whatever she has, go walk it over to the district attorney's office. Let them have at it. So this is what we're trying to get her to do is to go through it as expeditiously as possible. This is on her front burner, and I've asked her to make it a priority, and she's working away at it.
What exactly is she tasked with? What is she looking for?
Tell us what happened as best you can.
What happened to the wood and who was involved with it?
The whole narrative, right? So what happened from start to finish as best we can know. Yeah,
well, I got to tell you, little bugger, you raised more questions than we had. When you left, everybody's calling in, and all week long they're all saying, well, the mayor said this. What did he mean by that? What did he mean by that? And at one point he said this, and at the other point he said that. So I'm hoping to sew up a little bit of those loose ends.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I would like for this thing to be done yesterday. I want look, what we're trying to do, Barry, is just get to the bottom of it, show people what we conceivably can find, and people can make their own judgments about it. And I mean, I don't have more facts to offer right now, because I want her to do her thing and talk. And I mean, I've done lots of investigations in my prior life. You need to go out there and be thorough, and that's what she's doing.
You jumped almost immediately last week to your belief that there was no criminality involved here. And I've not seen any evidence of criminality at this point. But that was rather a large leap of faith, wasn't it? I mean, without having an investigation completed, you jumped to that?
No.
If state property is being held on city property, and somebody gave that away without the proper authority,
Right.
I mean, is that not a violation of the law?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about a criminal violation, right? Theft actually requires intent, right? So if I walked out of here with, your pen, right, and you said, hey, you took, and you call the mayor's office and say, hey, you left here with my pen, you thief, and I'd say, Barry, I thought it was my pen. It was one of these ubiquitous Bic pens that are cost 25 cents. It looked just like mine. Well, there's no intent there to take, right? So that's the difference. There's no, as far as she's going to go through it all. And like I said, we had the Joe Cordero, our police chief, has made sure that he's eyeballing the stuff. And I said to him, look, if you see it any differently from me, that's your determination. And by the way, take what you have right now and bring it over to the district attorney's office. They can have at it as well. But
so it is being referred to the district attorney's office.
Well, there isn't sort of a formal referral. I want them to have, because they've been, brought up in these discussions. No, my answer is no. You guys go take a look at it. There's nothing that we're hiding. In fact, as I think I noted when we were here last. There was a both in response to media inquiries last year that didn't end up in a story, but we responded, and then secondly, there were folks reached out to the Ernestina when we figured out that something went awry here. So it's not like because as I said last week, because there have been these other questions, we want to try to get answers as best we can to those questions. Might not answer every last one. We might not, and I think that's probably true of any investigation, honestly. But what we want the public to know is that we want the public to conclude that a thorough attempt was made to get the facts out.
Yeah. Again, for the record, I don't know of anybody who was saying that Jon Mitchell violated any laws or even had anything to do with this. I personally don't believe he even knew about the wood until after it was gone, right? Yeah. Am I correct in that?
No, but I did. So I did know that there was wood stored out there because it had been in the paper. But like the fact that it was being given away, no, and that's.
So you had no knowledge that the wood was gone until after it was gone, and we approached the office and asked about the.
Right.
But last week you made a reference though to.
Right, but by the way, and nobody's ever. And I've heard. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. I mean, I'll just say this. I don't take any of this. I don't take it personally. I don't think anybody's saying that I personally did something wrong, but I do take very seriously my responsibility over the affairs of the city. And some people might say, well, that's not fair, but no, that's what I get elected to do. So, I'm not pleased at what happened. I will, when we've gotten the facts out, I'm going to take a look at things and see what kind of corrective actions need to be taken. And look, there was a screw up that wood should not have left the city's custody. It belonged to somebody else, and that somebody else didn't say, that didn't authorize its being given away.
But that goes to the question I just asked you a moment ago. How can you jump then so quickly to say that there's no evidence of criminality when if somebody without authorization, without permission, without approval gave away state property, is that not? I mean, we're not talking about a 25-cent pen. We're talking here about tons of lumber.
Yeah. So.
And ignorance of the law doesn't always make you innocent of violating the law, right?
That is a general proposition of law that has exceptions. What we're talking about here is whether somebody had intended to, deprive the Ernestina of the wood for their own personal gain. And I haven't seen any scintilla of evidence of that. But Sandy's doing a thorough job in running it to ground, and as soon as she's done with that, and look, it is. There it is. Here we are in the Christmas season. She and the solicitor's office are going through literally over 1 million emails, and to ensure that that we cover every stone, turn over every stone as best we can. And I think that what I hope is the public will say, yeah, there was a mistake. They're owning up to it, and they worked hard to make sure that as much of this information came out as possible.
Why not sit back then and let the Inspector General or Attorney General or the DA handle this? Let them investigate it.
So the Personnel Department routinely does personnel inquiries, not as broad as this, but of this type, right? If there's somebody's made a mistake or said a mistake, or if somebody's had some interaction with their boss, or if there's been some ethical slip up. And we have city government's a big enterprise, right? 3,000 plus employees. When you combine it with combine between the school department and the other city departments, and about 1,000 employees just on the city side. It's a big business, and there are employees from time to time whose conduct have to be looked into. That would be true of any 1,000 person enterprise. And you have the personnel director whose charge in part is to make sure that, among other things, that the organization's ethical standards and performance standards are honored. And so she does. This is in her wheelhouse.
All right. You mentioned too last week that somebody at the DPI went to the Ernestina Commission and apologized and said, "Hey, this was a screw up, to use your words, quote unquote, a screw up." Who was that person?
So before we start getting into that, so we've been through some of this before. I want to get all these facts out first, Barry. Let her finish up. I don't really have anything else to add this week than last week. But do you know who that person is? I do, and before we start naming names publicly, I want there to be a full vetting. That's all. Okay, so we know who it was that went to the Ernestina Commission. We know who it was that authorized giving away the wood. Yes.
And it's the same person that went to the Ernestina Commission.
Not necessarily. No. Okay, I'm not. Look, I'm not. I want to get into this. Well, how about this? She's doing an investigation, and so she's going to get to the bottom of it, and we'll throw the doors open to it.
So, did the person that went to the Ernestina Commission to apologize? Did they? Have you spoken to that person?
I personally have not, because I'm not doing the investigation.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned that there was a person who ultimately wound up with the wood, and you said that that person was approached and didn't want to give it up.
So, Barry, I don't have any additional facts to add today. I want to let this investigation be concluded. A report will be issued, emails will be released, and you guys can have at it. So I know you want to go through a battery of questions. I get your prerogative to do that. All I'm saying is it doesn't make sense for me at once to say, Sandy, go run this to ground, get it done, and to be, speculating about stuff on the radio.
Well, it's not speculating. I mean, that's something you said. I'm just asking you about something you said. So you know who that person was?
I do. And before I start, and I don't have, and as I said before, I have not observed a scintilla of evidence, nothing that I'm aware of at all, or anybody in city government is at all, that these people were engaged in some kind of criminal behavior. And if there were, as I said, I'd be ringing the alarm bells on this thing. But this is as I see it, a personnel matter. We'll run it to the ground. We've kept keeping the district attorney's office apprised of it. We're handing stuff off to them if they want to go through it or not, and we'll let that take its course.
But is the person that ultimately in possession of the wood that didn't want to give it back, is that a city employee as well?
No. All
right,
but you have a list of 14 questions. I'm looking at your paper.
I've already been through many of them. But I mean, look.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm not going to engage in that. There's a process in place. It is a thoughtful process. We have serious people who want to get to the bottom of this. You have the chief executive sitting in front of you, Barry, saying, "Barry, I'm not pleased that this happened. We acknowledge the screw up by people who work in city government. I'm not, as someone who's a former federal prosecutor, I haven't seen anything that suggests criminal conduct."
Well, if somebody is possessing state property and is refusing to give it back, Mayor, don't you have the authority to go and claim it back? If they have state property that doesn't belong to them, that was somehow
we the city?
Yeah, don't you? I mean,
it doesn't belong to us. The wood didn't belong to the city,
but
Barry.
it was given.
We didn't
by a
we didn't own
employee.
it. We stored it. The city stored it.
Okay, so what you're saying is then that we have no authority to go after it. Did we notify?
We didn't have any authority to give it away in the first place, as
Right.
I've acknowledged.
Which we've acknowledged, yeah, absolutely. So it wound up in the hands of somebody else,
Right.
who shouldn't have it, and that person says, apparently somebody in your administration approached that person and said, "Hey, that doesn't belong to you," and the guy said, "I'm not going to give it back."
That's not what I said. And by the way, Barry, again, I don't have any other facts to add right now. So she's gonna do her job very thoroughly, as I know her, and as she's known by reputation to do.
All right. Well, the council voted Thursday night to communicate with the DA and the Attorney General about the wood.
Already
that?
doing that.
Right. So, have you spoken to the AG's office? Have you communicated with the AG's office? The council is. Have you done that as well?
I have not. The police chief is dealing with the DA's office.
Okay. So the chief is then conducting an investigation of this.
The chief is involved in is met with Sandy. He's looked at what she's uncovered,
and
he did that at my request.
Okay, no, which we get and appreciate, but all we're trying to figure out is what's going on here. So then the chief is communicating with the Attorney General's office about this. There was a dialogue.
So my understanding is he's approached the district attorney, and that's where that's where it is right now.
All right.
And again, at my request.
A couple of members of the council, Geista from Ward 2 and Carney expressed concern about the council getting involved in this. They said because we may be entering an area where there is criminality. Do you support that? I mean,
I don't know what that is, Barry. I don't know. You ask the council.
Well, the two councilors were concerned about the council getting involved in an area that may involve criminality. That maybe the council doesn't have a role in that area and should leave it to the people that should be investigating it. They were afraid.
I can't speak for what the council had in mind. All I can tell you is I've asked the chief to do his own independent review and to hand off what he's found to the district attorney, and that's why, if he hasn't done that already, he's about to do that.
All right, and just finally, and then I'll leave you alone on this. I just don't understand how you jump to the conclusion that there's not a scintilla of criminal activity when the investigations haven't been completed yet. I mean, how do you I think that's a huge leap of faith.
That happens in law enforcement all the time, Barry. When people whether it's an FBI agent or a police officer, when they take a look at something and figure out without going through a million emails, without undertaking a wiretap, without surveillance, without DNA swabs, without all the things that law enforcement can do to get at the question. You look at it and you say, no, I don't see anything. See anything but a really stupid set of mistakes, as opposed to somebody stealing something.
Has the person that made the stupid mistake been penalized for that stupid mistake?
So we'll get to all that. What steps need to be taken when she's done with her report.
All right, let me take a break. A bunch of people want to talk to you. I still owe you a question about last week about the $15 million bill grant. We didn't get a chance to do that last week, so we'll get into that in a couple of moments and some other things as well. Stay tuned. You're listening to 1420 WBSM. All right, welcome back to the program. It is a Wednesday afternoon, and it is midweek with the mayor. 12:34 is our time. The mayor is with us. Before we get on to you, Greg, just one quick question. The DA's office that's involved, would that be Bristol or Plymouth? Because I'm not sure where Quiticus is, kind of straddles Freetown and Rochester, right?
Yeah, so it's the Bristol DA's office, and as district attorneys' offices do, as a matter of routine, if one district attorney thinks it's belongs in somebody else's and falls in somebody else's district, then they make those decisions.
All right, we've got a $15 million build grant that was awarded from the Federal Department of Transportation for the Upper Harbor, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. What's it all about?
So this is a big deal. We've talked about harbor infrastructure over the last few years, and one of the big goals for my administration is to modernize the Port of New Bedford, because it really is the economic economic engine of the entire region, of all of Greater New Bedford and beyond. And we need modern infrastructure to make it go. And the thing is, these days it's hard to come by funds to build things, to build port facilities, to dredge and whatnot. And we've worked really hard to make the case to both the state and the federal government that we need funds to dredge the harbor, to build the North Terminal, to build, to replace the bridge, of course, because that will allow us to take on more, right? So we have right now New Bedford is pulling most of the fishing industry on the East Coast here. We had, from 2014 to 2017, a 67% increase in out-of-state vessels landing here. And all these other ports on the East Coast are struggling to stay open, and the boats are coming here, and that's not slowing down. At the same time, the offshore wind industry is about to launch here. In the next year, people will really start to see some more activity, and then about 2 years out, start to see big windmill components. And we need to be ready for that. And because if we're not ready for that, then we'll lose out. One of the on opportunities for really good jobs. One of the things that we've done. So with that backdrop, we've tried to chase down money for a number of things. So with dredging, we've had some success with the state and getting them to commit to that. That's all. And so that planning is going on now. But related to that is the North Terminal project. So the North Terminal project would be an 800-foot long bulkhead that would go from the current EPA facility, if people can picture this, almost up.
Sawyer Street?
No.
Further north?
No, for the south.
South.
Just on the other side of the bridge.
Okay.
And just on the north side of the bridge, not just on the north side, but north of the bridge. So south of the Warm Southern Mills and south of the Revere Copper and Brass side. So we've worked that for a long time. Ed Washburn, our port director, did a great job in putting together a compelling grant application, and we worked it for the last 3 years with the U.S. Department of Transportation, and particularly with Senator Markey, but also with the Environmental Protection Agency, because of the cleanup, because of the Superfund site in the harbor. EPA could play a role in this, and so we both did the constructing a really strong argument for this thing, as well as going out and really working Capitol Hill, and it worked. Senator Markey, deserves a lot of credit for coming through. He was asked by Elaine Chao, the Secretary of Transportation, about this project, and he said it's a good project. She issues these grants, and so and then EPA. Andrew,
she's a Trump appointee, right?
Yeah, and Andrew Wheeler, another Trump appointee, the EPA administrator who's been here. People might remember he visited here this summer and was quoting Melville and all that.
Making the Upper Harbor great again.
Right, making the Upper Harbor great again. So he did that, and you know what? He did he spoke up about it as well. So we worked from Senator Markey as well as from Andrew Wheeler, both weighed into the U.S. Department of Transportation, Secretary Chao, and then we got the grant.
And nobody got struck by lightning in the process.
No,
they worked together.
We're working together. That's what we're trying to do, right? So, but this is a big deal, because this will be a huge expansion of property owned by the city, controlled by the Port Authority, that will allow for more fishing vessels, for more, probably more cargo, but certainly more for offshore wind. And it's just going to, the more that we can make the most of the space that we have, the better off we'll be in the long run. This is a very undeveloped part of the harbor. And so we're really, I mean, we couldn't be more pleased with this. This is the biggest infrastructure grant we've gotten, except for of course, the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal. But this is going to make this is going to enable us to do more, not just by piling boats up at the dock, but also, supporting ancillary industries that need some water access. And so,
so last week, I think it was on Thursday, the governor said the fishing industry and the offshore wind industry are going to have to learn to live together. And certainly this has been a concern of yours and the fishing industry for a while about siting, how they're going to grid these things. And then last week, of course, 3,000 some odd more acres went up for auction. And I wish the governor had said, something a little bit more comforting to the fishing industry in those remarks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you know, and as we've discussed many times, we tried to lead the way in that discussion because we're right in the middle of it, right between fishing and offshore wind. And there's a way to do it that would work for everybody. And we're trying to facilitate. We literally spend. I few are the days that go by, at least in the last several months, when we wasn't talking to somebody about, transit lanes or new wind areas or something, and making sure that it works for fishing. We pay a lot of attention to those problems right now, because if we get it right, the fishing industry here will not be encumbered, and the wind industry also will be able to go forward, and it allows New Bedford to stay in the middle of the conversation, which is important. So I think we're making some progress on that. And the big fight, frankly, is in the waters of New York, the so-called New York Bight area, where there's an awful lot of fishing, scalloping that goes on, and it has been for the last several years. The governor of New York is pushing to have those areas developed for offshore wind. We're saying no, and the scallopers and the clammers are both saying no, slow down. DOD is also raising some concerns about those areas, because there is some the Navy does some training exercises in some of the areas that are been designated for offshore windmills. So we're moving that discussion along with the federal government and with members of Congress, and hopefully we'll arrive at a solution that works for everybody. That's what we want, because New Bedford would be the prime beneficiary. I mean, this is, there are decisions that are being made now about this stuff that will affect New Bedford for a long time, and that's why I'm in the middle of it. I'm not part of the federal government. I'm not part of the state, but I'm the mayor here, and we're the premier fishing port in America, and we want to be the premier offshore wind port, and so we've got to get this stuff right. So, we're sticking ourselves in the middle of it.
Last Saturday, the Worcester Public Library presented a program called Drag Queen Story Time.
Oh, I must have missed that.
Drag Queen Story Time at the Worcester Public Library.
You're showing me a picture of the individual who led it.
For preschools. Kids.
Is that you on Halloween?
No, that's not me. I wish I was that thin, but is that something appropriate, do you think, to be presented by a public library? Drag Queen Story Time, is that something that you think you might endorse for the New Bedford Public Library? Or?
Well, those kids are all smiling.
Yeah. They're saying, what the hell? They thought they were at a circus.
This is interesting. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to be at the top of the docket at the library anytime soon, Barry, at our library.
So as mayor, you wouldn't think that would be appropriate material for
parents have to decide what they want their kids to be exposed to, and I think but it's another thing to I think when you start putting public funds and public resources, at least public spaces, and then you're starting to get in an area where some people might find things offensive, and so I don't know. It's hard to know without knowing the details. That's not something that will probably be in the offing at the New Bedford Public Libraries anytime soon.
All right, 508-996-0500, and you're first with the mayor. Go ahead. Hello, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes.
I on the excuse me, on the wood. Let's say, for example, I have a bicycle. Now, I go away on vacation. I can't store it at my own house. I leave it at a friend's house. While I'm on vacation, unbeknownst to him, his friend comes over and gives it to his other friends. I come back. I find my bicycle in the possession of the person who it was given to. I go to the police station and I say, I have legal title to this bicycle. Make that person give me my bicycle back. Police go over there. They said, you have legal title to the bicycle. The guy says, no, somebody gave it to me. Unless you have legal title, you must give it back to the person who does have legal title. Why doesn't the Ernestina go and ask for their wood back?
Yeah, so I mean, your hypothetical makes sense, and as far as the Ernestina, some of those conversations did happen. I think that's going to come out as part of the report, how that all went down.
All right, thanks for the call. When do you anticipate the report being completed? Have you given her any kind of timeline to complete the work? Or?
As soon as possible. I mean, she's literally going through. I think they've already been through like 1 million emails. There's more to go. I mean, there's a lot.
Why emails? You've said that a number of times. What's in the emails? I mean, would it be you're looking for
we'll
communications?
When they're all out, we'll see. But there was certain. Yeah, some of this stuff was done. Some of these communications were done by email. So,
all right, 508-996-0500. You're on the air with the mayor. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, and with all due respect, I find, I don't live in New Bedford. I live in the state of Massachusetts. That's part my wood. I don't think New Bedford has the right to investigate it. And how do you investigate something that you didn't have, not you personally, but you couldn't hold on to, meaning the city of New Bedford? So right there, I find that this is a whole bunch of nothing. And I'm going to reiterate it again. This belongs to the constituents of the state of Massachusetts. New Bedford doesn't have any right at all investigating this, and you should know this since you said you're a former prosecutor.
All right, let's let him get a response. Do you think the state should have the jurisdiction on this, or does New Bedford have jurisdiction on this?
So there were New Bedford personnel involved in this whatever transaction took place, and not only should we not be ignoring that, we should be trying to find out more, and we did initially. We had a handle on it, and there were other questions that came up, and we want to do a more formal inquiry so those questions can be answered, and that's what's happening right now. All right,
508-996-0500. You're next with the mayor. Whoop, no, you're not next with the mayor. That's my cue always to take the break. That's overdue.
There we go.
So let me do a break. We'll come right back. 508-996-0500 if you'd like to chat with the mayor, and we got some other stuff to talk about as well. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. 12:49. Now the mayor's with us until 1 o'clock. Let's back to your calls we go, and you're next in WBSM. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
Hey, Mayor, I just have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that this person who's doing the investigation has got a lot of work to do. I mean, on her own, other than doing this, I must be correct, right? I mean, she probably has enough tasks to do. My question to you is, if you already know who turned around and apologized for the lumber, and you already know whoever had the lumber refused to, if we know they refused to give it back, why have you just not brought these two people in a room and got answers instead of wasting someone looking at 1 million emails if we already know the two most important points?
She's done that too. She's talked to those people. They're not mutually exclusive.
You go through a million emails.
Because when you do an investigation, Steve, you want to make sure that you look at the evidence, that you look at all the evidence you have available, reasonably available to you, so you can make credibility assessments of the witnesses you talk to, right? And what I tasked her with doing is being thorough. There are certain things, obviously, a personnel director can't do. She doesn't have subpoena power. She can't go electronically monitor somebody. I mean, but this is hold on one second.
Let me answer.
Hold on,
I'll give you a second.
So that's what she's doing. If I just said, okay, just take their word for it and don't look at any email, then she wouldn't be doing her job. I wouldn't be doing my job.
All right, so then that must lead you to believe that somebody's not being truthful.
No, it's about being thorough.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a nice Christmas.
You too.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Steve. 508-996-0500. You're up next in WBSM. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
Okay. Just remember, when you protect your friends will bring you down. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call. 508-996-0500. You're up next in WBSM.
Hi, John.
Hey, Mike.
Now, there's some rumors throughout the city that the guy that's got the wood, he's a builder, and he's already had it milled into flooring, and it's in houses that he built. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, so that's not something I've heard, but Sandy's going to try to run it all to ground, Mike, and I think she's making some progress. Although, look, I mean, you talk about the wood as being, I mean, there's a pile of wood, and it's not like it's indivisible. So she's going to do her best to figure out exactly what happened to all of it.
Who the guy is, and a lot of people in the community seem to know who the guy is.
Well, I think there's certainly a lot of speculation going around right now.
Well, I mean, if look honestly, Mike, I mean, if you think you have some insight into it, I'm not being sarcastic here. I mean, call her up.
What I'm saying is, there is a lot of speculation. I guess you want to call it speculation. That's what you'd want to refer to it as. But there's a lot of people telling the same story and mention the same guy. Of course, I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but that he receives the wood. He was the receiver of the wood. He had it milled into flooring, and the reason why he can't give it back to you, back to the city, because it's in houses and floors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for anybody who says stuff like that, Mike, I just say, how do you know? What's the basis of it? And if you have the basis to say that, just pass the name of the person along, and we'll make sure that Sandy calls them and finds out what they have.
508-996-0500. You're next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Mr. Mayor, could you please tell me when the Buttonwood Park Senior Center is going to open?
Yeah, there's a lot of work being done over there, and I don't have a date off the top of my head, but what we'll do is you could do a couple of things. We can pass that information along to the station so the station has it. And or if you want to call my office, and we can run that information down specifically for you, and just let you know what the projected date of the completion will be. So that number is, if you don't have it, it's 979-1410.
All right, appreciate your call. Let me grab the last break. We'll be right back to wrap things up next on WBSM. Stay with us.
Well, can I add one thing, Barry, just as we come back?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we just found, I just got a text that the Buntwood Senior Center will be open just after New Year's. So keep an eye out for that. So that's happening.
All right, and it's but just like a total rehab over there?
Yeah, there's a lot of work being. There's some roof work and there's some other work being done over there. So we want to make it look good. It's a good spot.
All right, 508-996-0500, and you're going to get the last word with the mayor. Go ahead. Yes, you're on the air. Oh, I'm so glad you called in. Yes, I asked the mayor about it last week off the air, and he wasn't sure what I was talking about. The whipping post downtown.
At the Octopus.
There was actually a piece on this, and I don't recall whether it was on the internet or in the paper or somewhere. There was a piece on this several months ago. Tim, do you know what we're talking about here? The whipping post downtown?
I just got zapped. Yeah, I looked into it a few months ago when somebody sent me a photo and said, you should do a little digging on this and see why this is there. It's a piece of art. It's a sculpture that somebody had put up.
Is it part of the Seaport art walk? Is it one of the...
Yeah, it's one of those pieces, and so that's why it's up there. And when I reached out to the person, I forget her name. She's just moved into a new position, but she said that it was put out there as a piece of art, and it was going to stay out there.
And where is it exactly, Tim?
I'm not sure exactly where it is.
I don't think the Seaport Art Walk objects are permanent. I think that's a temporary.
Yeah, it's part
display.
of a display.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not picturing the object that you're talking about, but now that you've brought it to my attention, I can take a look.
I appreciate it.
No, and I respect your views on it. I'm not picturing it in my head right now.
All right, my friend, appreciate it. That's pretty much going to do it for this program, and I guess we won't see you again until next week, right? So Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
And
Merry Christmas
Jonathan,
to you and
Merry
family.
Christmas to you. And so you guys like cooking the goose, or what are you doing?
No, I'm just avoiding any of that, and just I'm ready to eat.
CVS is open till midnight now until Christmas. So
don't joke, because
the May will be doing his Christmas shopping. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to be back on the other side of the news break with your call, so stay with us. You're listening to 1420 WBSM. We've got ABC News, followed by the local news, I believe, with Tim. And the ABC 6 Weather Center forecast is going to get warmer, so that's good news. We're back. Stay tuned to WBSM.
Measure that will continue government funding into February so we can continue this vital debate after the new Congress has convened.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, the bill does not include extra money for a border wall. ABC's Karen Travers has more from the White House.
President Trump on Twitter writes, quote, "One way or the other, we will win on the wall." Another sign he's backing down from his demand that lawmakers approve $5 billion for the wall he wants to build on the U.S.-Mexico